Alright, what's up, guys? So, I got my Daredevil Season 1 and 2 review. Um, I'm just there's gonna be very little spoilers here, like none, basically. I'm gonna say maybe one thing that's a slight spoiler, but it'll only be a spoiler for those people who really lose their shit when they find out something. But it's nothing gonna be like what happens to the characters or anything like that. There's gonna be none of that. This is just gonna be a straight up review of what I think of the show after 2 seasons. I usually don't like to review a TV show after its first season because I feel the first season is very has misrepresentation of the series as a whole, because if you know, things happen in production for film and shows, where things change, actors change, people don't want to do it anymore, contracts expire, they have to bring in the new thing. They're trying to appeal to a new even demographic sometimes, which can be good or bad depending on your opinion of the film or TV show. Um, and now I think the show has gone into 2 seasons, and that's when I usually like to do it because the second season really sets the tone for just about any film or TV show. And I'm not saying film on accident. I'm saying both of these mediums of entertainment, they generally change over time. So, what do I think of Daredevil? As someone, okay, so I was a huge comic guy. Okay, I'm just gonna give that. I read comics when I was like, I read a lot of them, but believe it or not, Daredevil is one of those heroes I never really read the comics of. So that's the perspective you're getting here. You're not getting a dude who sat there and read through all the Daredevil comics and this is wrong and that's not right and this is not right. This wasn't like it was in the comics. Um, I'm not one of those people when it comes to Daredevil. When it comes to Batman, it's a very different story for me. But I read the shit out of those. Basically, mostly DC comics I read. But I read the Iron Man comics, the Captain America comics, even the all those some various Wolverine comics. Um, yeah, I've read a lot of comics, okay, but Daredevil was one of those heroes that I didn't really read about in the thing. It just never caught my attention. So now all these shows are coming up, and that's just the perspective that you're getting here. Now, um, I just want to start with saying the character that plays Daredevil. This is probably the most important one. He actually does a really good job of playing Daredevil, and I think that's I think it really drives the show forward is him personally. And we're gonna start with season 1 here first. So one thing I really appreciated about this sorry, this TV show, was how gritty it is. You see, I like how it didn't hold back on its punches. You see, one thing I was really fearful for when I heard of Marvel's Daredevil was that this is just gonna be a dude beating the crap out of bad guys, and the bad guys have their, stereotypical evil shit that they do. Um, but one thing I was really glad was it's not like that. The show isn't like that. The show actually gets pretty brutal at times of when it portrays death and stuff like that. Personally, it's the thing that I think Arrow, another show that I watched that's based on the Green Arrow as a hero, it's one thing I feel Arrow has lost personally, and I really hope this show doesn't lose it either in the future. But I feel that show has really lost it because the first Arrow was brutal. People were dying, and shit was happening, shit was real. And even the second season to a degree of Arrow, but after the third, it started to kind of trip off of that. But but I really hope it keeps that, and it did in the second season. In fact, it even went more into the grit. Whoever's directing this he knows what he's doing. He or she. I didn't read any of the directors, but they know what they're doing. Okay, so the first season was pretty good. Anyone who doesn't know, it was the Kingpin who was the villain, which was actually done extremely well. See, they could have really gone the comic book way because I've actually read a little about Kingpin in the comics as well, because Daredevil's not the only place he shows up in, but they make Kingpin look like a big fat um, bad guy, big fat cat, want to be rich, control everything. bad guy. Now, one thing I really loved about this show was Daredevil really didn't do that. It didn't do that with him. It actually gave the villain character, which is what is so important in these kind of shows to keep them going. Is that the character was well thought out and well written. He didn't do anything that was out of character. And what was really awesome was that this show made me hate the villain. You know, I know what people may say. Of course, you hate the villain. He's the bad guy. No, there's some films, TV shows, even video games that don't really make you hate the bad guy in a bad way. You know, like if you don't want people to hate your bad guy, they have to feel sympathetic. They have to feel this. They have to feel that. They have to feel other emotions that are still a positive experience, right? Like, oh, I feel really bad for that guy because of these events. It's not that I feel bad for him because he's so horribly written. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when things are happening and you want to feel bad. And that's what they did with the villain. That is what they really did. Okay? And I'm gonna be comparing this to a lot of the other superhero shows because I watch pretty much all of them except Jessica Jones. I'll watch that later when I have more time to actually sit in and enjoy it. But um, I watch Flash, Arrow. Let's see what else. Marvel's Agents of Shield. Um, Stuff like that. I generally watch all that stuff. You know, it's what comes to mind right now of what I've mainly been watching and focusing on are those shows. So I'm going to be comparing it to those, mostly to Arrow and The Flash, as I do understand one is Marvel, one is DC, but they are still shows starring a superhero, and I'm just going to go with that. So like I said, the villains were well done in the first season, and we'll get into it in the second season. This is when I come to my fears for the show, but let's get the positive out of the way first. So, the first thing I want to say is the show is extremely well paced with very little filler, and that's what I really like about it. The first season was what I just finished watching the second, so the first season was what 10, 11, 12, 13 episodes around there. It was around that number, about 13. I don't think it exceeds 15. Okay, it's not like Arrow where it has 23 episodes in one season and half of them are filler. This show has very little filler, which is what I really like. I know that every episode that I'm getting into is going to be a meaningful episode. This is the exact reason why I got out of anime. I can't watch animes anymore because the fillers are just absolutely retarded at this point. Because you know what? I'm sorry, I have other things to do. I can't sit and watch a filler for an hour. That's not enjoyable. I want actual meaningful things, otherwise don't make the episode. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, save money, conserve your money, and don't make the episode. And that's what I like about Daredevil. It goes to 13 episodes, but something important happens in every single episode, and it's meaningful to the plot, to the story. And yes, for those of you who take film class, plot and story are not the same thing, and they are all intertwined properly. The characters develop properly. See, it's not suffering from what I believe Green Arrow is suffering from right now. Okay? Characters don't act erratic. Okay, and when I mean by erratic, I don't mean like they do random shit and they get emotional over random shit. That's what happens in the Green Arrow right now, and it's really killing that show for me slowly. It's killing it slowly. The only reason why I can really keep watching it is because, you know, I'm a DC Green Arrow fan. You know, I like Green Arrow. Batman's still going to be my favorite, but I like Green Arrow. You know, I like the Flash. Flash is doing well. This, you know, it's a really good show. But that's what I'm talking about. This is what this show does really well. I like how the characters are realistic and believable. Okay, there's something called audience reflection. Okay, and I know I finished Intro to Film, and I've learned all this shit too. Like, you know, where I really started thinking about it was when the audience, whether you know it or not, you're gauging what's happening on the screen to be realistic or not. Like when the character does something really stupid, you know. Like for example, let's take an example. The Green Arrow, right? There's one character named Laurel Lance, and she's like his girlfriend that he cheated on a while ago, okay? So, but she's still hanging around, okay? And they've really moved past all that shit, all the cheating he did, and all that blah blah blah, all that BS emotional romantic crap. And whenever like I want to give an exaggeration here first. Oliver Queen will take a glass of coffee and move it slightly to the left, and she will have like an emotional breakdown every fucking time on screen, and it pisses me the fuck off. Like every time she opens her mouth, it's like there is no way even emotionally distraught human being would act this way every single time. And she isn't really all that emotionally distraught. She's an alcoholic, which is extremely different. Okay, I've been around alcoholics. I've seen alcoholics in my family. I've seen it in other families. They don't do shit like that. You know, they don't just, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't tell me this earlier. Even though if you would have told me this, I would have totally died. And she knows she would have totally died. Okay? She knows it. She knows all that. See, like it's one thing when the character doesn't know information, and it's another thing when the character actually does know information. And she knows the information, you know? And she keeps having these retarded emotional breakdowns, you know, and it's really annoying. It's not believable as a character. You know, the only character right now that's really, like, the only two characters really that are believable in the show at this moment, and I've already gone through season 4, most of it, watching it as it comes on TV, is Diggle and Oliver Queen. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, now I'm saying we went on a tangent about Green Arrow there, and the reason why is now I'm going to bring in Daredevil here, where it's a contrast, where the characters don't act that way, and thank God they do. They act like, you know, real people would with that information, you know, and like that's what I like about this film. I don't want to really give away anything because I think it could be a spoiler to a degree, and I don't think it's worth spoiling. But when people get information about him or even the villains or whatever, whoever they are, you know, they act in a responsible, reasonable, human way. Okay, and that is what this show does well. It's believable. Daredevil is extremely believable. You can actually believe this happens in Hell's Kitchen, and that's what I really like about it. From police investigation to cover-ups, there's no over-the-top things that happen within the process of the law or any of these things. There's real corruption and stuff like that. That's corruption, but that's not over the top, and that's what I really love about the show. Okay, and that was the first season. The first season was really the battling of corruption and introducing the character, as one may imagine, which is why I usually don't count the first season. I don't review the first season right away. Okay, I count it, of course, of how much I enjoyed it, but I don't review it like when it's done. I wait till second. So, next is now let's go into season 2. Now that I've kind of set the base of what the tone, that's what the first season really did. It set the tone, the gritty tone. Now, one thing I could say for sure, the first season builds upon the second season builds upon the first season very well. It takes the best from the first season and it brings it to its with its A game. It brings it with its A game. And I think that the second season kept the grit and all that. And the Punisher, that is a star of the second season. It's not even I feel Daredevil. It is the Punisher. He is the star. And I had some fear going into this. Not fear, not like as I'm afraid of the Punisher or anything. I had fear for the direction it was going to go. Because, see, the Punisher is one of those characters that's very easy to turn into a blunt instrument. And that's what I was afraid of. I did not want this to be about a blunt instrument. I felt that is boring, to be quite honest, especially for a TV show. See, in a movie you can have your blunt instrument villain because he's done after 2 hours. But a TV show goes on for 15 hours, 16 hours sometimes, you know? I'm pretty sure every episode's about, 50 to 40 minutes around there. So it's about an hour per episode you really take the time out of. And, you know, that's about 13 hours. If you think about it, 12 hours, around there, you know? And it's just, I'm glad that they didn't do that with the Punisher. The Punisher has character. He has depth to him. He's more than just a dude with a gun murdering criminals. You know, he's more than that. And I think that this season really dug deep into that. And it did it well. You know, and one thing I like, you know, and here's a little bit of it. You know, the Punisher kills people, and people are obviously in the city making opinions on it. You know, like, oh, is he doing the right thing, just murdering criminals outright? Is he doing the bad thing? And that's not really a spoiler. Anyone who knows the Punisher knows that that's what's gonna happen after you murder people like that, okay? Um, and I like how in the audience I was making my opinion on the Punisher along with everyone in the show, which I thought was really awesome. I was watching this with my brother and a couple of friends also, and you know what? We all had different opinions on what we thought of the Punisher. And I'm not talking about was he a good character or a bad character, but on his actions and whether they were good or bad or justified. And when I say that, I don't mean like a review standing like they should not have filmed it like this. No, I'm talking about like his actual actions in character. Like was he right to murder all those gangsters or was it wrong? And should he be put into jail? That kind of things we were doing, along with all the characters in the film or TV show, and that's awesome. That means they wrote him extremely well. The events that surrounded him were believable, and they weren't over the top. They weren't. And his backstory and everything that that they're gonna introduce will back up why he is the way he is, and I think that is extremely awesome. That is just how well done. Okay. And the show is extremely well done. I have only positive praise right now, except for one thing, and this is the last thing I want to get to. Um, I feel that the villain in the second season is bullshit. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, like in the sense of this. When you watch the second season, when I tell you this information, it's really not a spoiler. It's really not. Okay. And the more spoiler is the story behind all of it. So I'm not going to spoil that, but I want to tell you, the main villain in the second season is fucking ninjas. Okay. When I say ninjas, I mean ninjas, like dressed up in the whole ninja stereotypical garb. Now, I don't know what is wrong with people who are writing stories for villains and stories technically about superheroes right now. And this is the one thing I know I've said all positive stuff and all that, but this is the one thing that I'm wondering why the story writers thought this was a good idea. And I'm sorry, but I hate it when these TV shows go into the ancient and supernatural bullshit. You know why? Because, see, here's the thing. When we watch superhero films, we want them to be somewhat, or TV shows, we want them to be somewhat grounded in reality. Okay, in some degree. And I think this is why Batman has such a massive fan base, and even to a degree, Superman does. And like, when you accept the rules of his world, right? You accept Superman's not from the planet. The issues he deals with are very real, though, right? They're very real issues. Now, the Arrow does this with the League of Assassins, okay, in his show, and now Daredevil's doing it with this other assassin organization. Please, I wish they would just stop this. I hope it does not bleed into any other shows anymore. It should be like a rule now that they can't do this for a while. And I understand. Maybe it's part of his backstory. I've never read the Daredevil comics, so maybe these assassin things, like I can understand the League of Assassins in Oliver Queen. I can understand the League of Assassins in Batman. But you have to handle it properly. You cannot just spam the screen with ninjas. Okay? See, a TV show gives superheroes a very unique opportunity that a film doesn't give. And that is to really flush out the city. The show should be about the city and about him protecting the city. Okay? I understand it'll get boring watching him beat up drug dealers. It'll get boring watching that. But ninjas are not the answers. You need to find better villains. Okay? Stop. Do what season 1 did for Daredevil. There was one fucking ninja in the first season. Okay? But he had depth. He had power on screen for a reason. Okay? He had power on screen. Okay? And that was the thing. It was more to it than just being a ninja on screen. But what this season did with its villain towards the end was they just put ninjas everywhere. It's like, really? Really? Like, that's not about the city. Okay? It's about that ancient voodoo shit that Arrow got too deep into, and it's nearly killing the show. Arrow is actually dying as a show, slowly but surely, because of the decisions that they're making with their characters and how they're handling the script. It's straight up. That's honest. It is dying slowly, you know? And I really am afraid for this show, okay? Because I hope they resolve that ninja shit real quick and move on and start actually using their brains again when they made the Kingpin, okay? In the first season as the villain. That character had depth, he had believability, he had a lot of shit, and I'm sorry, ninjas don't have believability the way they're portraying them. I can understand if there's an order of assassins. I can completely understand that. I mean, there's a blind dude beating up criminals. I get it. But you can't dress them up like ninjas of a stereotypical kung fu film, okay? You can't you can't do that anymore. Okay? We are our audience, I'm sorry, the audience is smarter than that. We're not stupid. Okay? You can't no more. End it. End the ninjas. Okay? And if you're going to keep them around, make them believable. Okay? Do not put them in ninja jumpsuits. Okay? Make them look like what ninjas did in Batman Begins, the movie. Remember the League of Assassins? When they're in their little dojo thing in the mountains, they all look like ninjas, right? That's where they should look like ninjas. But when they're actually destroying Gotham at the end of the film, you know, when they're actually doing that, they weren't dressed up like fucking ninjas the whole time. They were dressed up. Only a few of them look like ninjas. You know, and most of them actually probably had a really good excuse to look like ninjas if you watch the film, you know, at that moment. And there was only a few of them. But they were dressed up like normal people infiltrating the world. And I get that. That's a very scary thing. Corruption infiltrating with these deadly assassins. I totally get it. I get it. Okay? But the way you portrayed them, the way you made them look in costume design, character design, and depth was absolutely borderline bullshit. And you know it. The person who wrote it probably was running out of ideas at last minute and started writing shit for them. You know, they must have came up with the idea for them early on, and then they're like, shit, we're running out of time, and ancient shit. Woo! That solves everything. Ancient and mysterious shit to buy you time to build on shit later. Okay? So, there's one more thing that really irks me, but I feel it's a spoiler, and I'm gonna let people watch it. You know, I don't wanna boil that up. I mean, it's just because I feel if I say it, it's not gonna be good. Um, you know what? I'm gonna say it. Fuck it. I'm gonna say it. But if you don't want to know what it is, you can just close the video right now or skip over some amount. You know, just that's pretty much it. This is gonna probably be the last thing I talk about. So here it goes. I'm not gonna tell you all the ins and outs of the plot still. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. That's not what this is. There's a machine. Okay, an ancient machine powered by magic. You know, blood magic. And I'll let you gauge the backstory on this bullshit however you want when you hear about it, when you watch the show. And it essentially is the Lazarus Pit, okay, from the DC universe. It fucking brings people back to fucking life, okay? And I'm serious, it gives them immortality. Now, I told you I hate the supernatural natural bullshit in my shows for superheroes. I hate it even in my films and even to a degree in the video games. Okay? I hate it. You know why? Because it just totally pulls you out of the immersion of the world. And it's like, really? Really? Basically what all these shows like to fucking do is they like to build a fucking excuse, and I'm sorry I'm getting real upset about this, to bring characters back to life. Okay? That's what this is going to be used for, and I'm really afraid about this. It doesn't, it shows, you'll see what happens at the end, but it really, I fear for season 3. because this they cannot use this as a fucking excuse to bring people back to life. That ain't okay. No. No. That's not okay. There has to be consequence if people are gonna die. Okay? There has to be real consequence. Don't do what Arrow did. Don't do it. I'm begging you, don't do it. That's what killed Arrow. It is the biggest reason where people die in Arrow and you actually felt sad for their death and they're brought back by the fucking Lazarus pit. Thank God they finally fucking destroyed it. And that's it. That's what keeps fucking happening. Okay? It keeps happening and happening, and everyone who died literally fucking came back in Arrow. No one fucking stays dead the way they're supposed to. Okay, at least Daredevil's killed a lot. Like, there's a lot of killing in this. I don't think they can bring everyone fucking back, but still, I don't like when you bring main characters back after they've gone. You take away all that character build up, all that character creation, all the relationships that people had with that character, and the loss that those characters are feeling. You freaking throw that to the side. That's an important emotion. Okay, that's an important thing, and that's what superhero films are. They are about, and movies and TV shows and video games. They're about emotional connection to the hero himself. If we don't care about the hero and his city and what he's feeling, it's dead. It doesn't mean anything. Heroes are nothing more than symbols. Okay? There's symbolisms of doing the right thing and etc. and etc. and all that. There's symbolisms. But if you can't even give a shit about the symbol because everything that he protects and all that bullshit that he's working so hard for can be just undone, and when people die and consequence can just be undone, you break immersion. You break it. And that's what it did at towards the end of the second season, which is why I would give the show as a whole an 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10. Not a 9, not a 10, an 8 out of 10. It would have been a 9.5 close to a 10 if they didn't pull that bullshit at the end. And the reason why I say 9.5 closer to a 10 is because, of course, if they didn't have that, how else would they have ended it? That would be debatable. We'll never know, right? Because they didn't end the season that way. So that's the only thing. All the characters are well done. Even the main ninja dude is well done. Okay, he's well done. I'll give him that much. Elektra is well done, as obvious. Everyone knows. That's not a spoiler, by the way. Everyone knows she's in it. I mean, she's on the freaking. When you pop up Netflix, she's on the freaking thing. Okay, the Punisher's in there. I'll let you figure out all the villains and shit yourself, the plot yourself when you watch it. But yeah, I know that shit just pissed me off. I'm sorry. It really just it pissed me off beyond belief. It's just completely beyond belief with that stuff. But everything else is great. The Frank Castle, the way they handled the freaking Punisher, that was freaking fantastic. Okay, that's how you freaking deal with the anti-hero right there. And I just gotta say the show is good. The first 2 seasons are still good, despite that frustration I had. It's good. So I would recommend a watch. I mean, it deserves your watch. Okay, it really, really does. So thanks for watching. I know it's been a long review, and it's just me basically been talking about some of the general stuff. I don't want to get too in depth because I feel that if I got way too far in depth, I think I would just spoil half the shit for you guys, and that's no fun. I'll be honest. It's no fun watching a movie. They spoil something like if you haven't seen Star Wars, here I go with a spoiler. If you haven't seen it's Han Solo died. Okay, I figured that out like on day one. Someone obviously spoiled it. I didn't go see the movie at day one, despite how big of a Star Wars fan I am. But I just couldn't get tickets, and someone spoiled that for me. But in a film, I felt it didn't hurt the film at all. It didn't hurt my enjoyment of it in any way. But I feel when you ruin things in TV shows, it ruins the enjoyment. Because see, when when TV shows end on cliffhangers, which obviously they all do every single time, just so an excuse so that we can bring it back, like it's not a big deal. But but when a TV show does it, it has like a cliff, because it's not too far away before we find out, and it's just edging on you, and I feel I like I like giving those people that feeling because they can enjoy the film. So that's why I haven't gone too in depth. And this is why it's just a review. It's just my opinion of the characterization and what they did right and what they did wrong, and that's pretty much it. They're hitting all the right notes when it comes to the characters, which I really like. They're hitting the right notes when it comes to the directing and how gritty the world is and how cutthroat. But see, here's the thing. This is why I don't give it like a 9 or a 10. I'm giving it an 8, which I think is still pretty generous for what I think people don't understand the impact that bring back to life shit has on this on this show, specifically more this show. Okay? And the reason why is because this show has been all about consequence. It's been all about death and people being erased forever. Okay? They die. Okay? And they die. That's life. That's realism. That's believable. Okay? We're not watching a fairy tale. Okay? We're not watching wizards and dragons. We're watching a very believable setting. Okay? And that's what sets superheroes and stuff like that apart from other fantasy and fictional media. Okay? They are very believable, and that's even Superman is very believable. Even Wonder Woman's believable. Aquaman's even believable. They live in believable, they are in believable settings and circumstances, and I think that's extremely important. You know, and and I think this bring back to life thing destroys it. Like I said, the world is gritty. People die. You worry for the characters on screen. But if you have something like this, the worry goes away because I'm not even worried in the Arrow for anyone to die anymore. I used to be, but the problem is not that it has 4 seasons in. That's not the problem. The problem is the fucking bring back to life voodoo magic shit they keep pulling in these superhero films, and movies. Like I think they really need to separate themselves from that plot line. They need to find a way to end it quickly. Like obviously they've done things that they can't take back. They wrote it, that happened. But just keep that in mind. Future season 3, keep it in mind. That's all I'm gonna say. Just keep it in mind, and the show is still good. I like Matthew Murdock. It's well acted. The Punisher is just oh man. I've never seen death be dealt in such a badass way. I'm just gonna say it is just awesome. So, but aside from that, it's a good show. Deserves your watch. Well directed, believable, keeps the grit, lacks filler, which I think is a good thing. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.